Okay, I believe we're live. Today, I just threw out a little invitation to see who would show up, and luckily for me, I have two tickers. So we have Aaron and Alex, and Captain Gothnog, and is it ADVS Productions? Is that the name of your channel?
Yeah. Though when I see it on the thing, it's always just my name because of Google. So I don't
Yeah.
know how that works anymore. just I just leave it to the fates to just figure out.
Yeah, when you try to type in that stuff and after the user slash, it's like, yeah, that doesn't work. What's their actual, you go to
Yeah.
their profile, and half the time it's just that gobbledygook letters
Yep.
and numbers and everything.
Yep.
So, but yeah, we figured we'd get together today and try to talk about something RPG related. We'll see where the conversation goes. Aaron, you had a chance to actually read over was it the Player's Guide to the Temple of Elemental Evil? Is that the correct
Collective
name of
Companion, I
it?
think it was, or something like that.
Yeah. It's the Elemental Evil Player's Companion, and it's quite good. I mean, I've not gone entirely in depth with it, but I took a little bit of a cursory look over the races and the spells, and that's basically what the companion offers. It gives four new races, and it has a ton of new spells for pretty much every caster except
Cleric, I think.
cleric, or yeah, and I don't think like there's any like paladin, extra paladin
Oh, right.
spells or anything. Yeah, but there's like in terms of like divine spells, I guess there are druid spells. But yeah, it's really I haven't had a chance to go through all of the spells either, but it's definitely evocative and makes me want to use that stuff and play that game. So that sounds. So I was very excited when I saw that, and it's free. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that it was free.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I know they did that with the basic rules that you can go download for free, and someone said that
Yeah.
they're going to be updating those as
Oh,
time
yeah.
goes on with more
Yeah, every
free
time they come out
content.
with new major kind of, renovation or not renovation, but addition, they're going to be updating that. So I think it's pretty brilliant, model for them to be, giving away some free stuff and as well as their other stuff. So it's keeping people hooked, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
hmm
That's a good way to do it. And, I mean, a lot of the games that I play have the free core set or the free core rules. A lot of times without art, because the art's expensive, as you
Hmm.
know. Alex, you got to pay the artists. You got to give them money so they're not starving so much. So, but yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I still have yet to play it. I think probably both of you have played it a bunch by now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've actually been playing a campaign of 5e. We converted it from Pathfinder. It's been a pretty long-running campaign. We actually, in June, the campaign would have started 2 years ago. So that's kind of how long, off and on. We've been people have dropped and come back in, and lost players and gained players. But yeah, we've so it's been interesting getting the perspective of playing Fifth Edition in a game that used to be Pathfinder, and seeing and really being able to compare and contrast that. So and
Yeah,
I love it.
it was an interesting conversion process too, because I had to come up with let's see, there was a paladin that I had to come up with a new oath for, and there was a cleric who had to have a new what do clerics have,
Domains.
domain, and then a new bardic college.
Mhm.
So to make them, because I wanted them to fit as closely to to their Pathfinder character as possible, but fit to fifth edition. And I mean, for the most part, it was a relatively smooth transition.
Yeah, I
It
mean, I
was.
think there was a point where we kind of decided, well, it's not going to be like 100% the same, and there's going to be things that are
Mhm.
lost and gained, um, it was still, the integrity of the characters still remained. Like, I mean, my character had a lot more back in Pathfinder had a lot more like feats and like
Yeah.
subtle magic and abilities, whereas now with the bard, there's a lot more just magic going around, so just casting spells and stuff like that. So, but it's still, luckily we've been blessed with, really good role players and a very good dungeon master. So it's been, the characters feel the same, the stories feel the same. So it's been a good process overall.
Yeah, I've played in a couple different settings with different systems, and there's always a slightly different feel whenever you translate something from one system to another. It's just setting details, and to sometimes get lost, or sometimes get you have to put a few more additional things in there to make things work. So that's cool. So overall, you said like it's pretty much just feels the same, but there's just little differences you notice. That's cool.
Yeah. I think that, like, obviously, feeling the difference of the system, I mean, I feel like the combat is definitely quicker, and a lot more powerful. Like, there's, I think that in every sort of combat we've had, it's been pretty brutal on either side. Either, the player characters have decimated the enemies, or the enemies have decimated the player characters. So it's but then, and there's been some close calls too. So it's definitely, I like that feel of it. And yeah, there's just it's a very simple, quick system. There's a lot less going back to the rules to figure out what's the what's the mechanism for this, but but it's been a good process overall. Yeah.
How have the cantrips played out? When you ran Pathfinder, did you guys have cantrips? It's been so long since I played Pathfinder. I don't remember if there's cantrips in there.
As a lot of people know, I'm a big fan of cantrips. So yeah, there were there were quite a lot in Pathfinder, and I added more. So those were always sort of available. There are a few more combat oriented ones in 5th edition, which I kind of like, because it gives the spellcaster something they can continue to do even when their really powerful spells are exhausted. So they can still continue to shoot these firebolts, which are can kind of keep them in the fight. And yeah, I mean, I don't think they're necessarily overpowered. I think that they do scale with the character as they go up in level, but again, that seems fairly makes sense to me. So
yeah, I enjoy the ability to cast spells at different levels, as opposed to preparing a level of this spell. It's the ability to basically pump more power into your spell and get greater effects. But you're also trying to manage the economy of okay, this is how many spell slots I have. So it's a lot more flexible, and it makes every spell feel useful in the situation. It doesn't feel like anything's a throwaway. And cantrips, you can't cast them at higher levels, but as your character levels up, they get the effects of the cantrips become greater. So it's definitely a very satisfying, at least for me, spell system. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I like that. Just reading over, like I said, I haven't played or ran it yet, but it seems like there's still some management involved, trying to, like I said, figure out which level of spell you're going to use to cast some of the spells. And I do like spell systems where you can cast weak spells and pump more into them, like spell points or mana, or a higher spell slot, like you're talking about with 5th edition.
Yeah.
So 5th edition's in my bucket list, but because of family obligations here, playing games and things is a little bit harder than it used to be. So I try to just squeeze in little bits of gaming wherever I can. Like I said, I just went back and started doing some face-to-face gaming for the first time in a long time. So I felt alive at the table. I didn't even sit down. I think I sat down twice during the whole 3 or 4 hours that I was running. I just kept standing up. I was so excited. It's like a kid in a candy store.
And then you freaked out all of your players.
There were a few. I think I talked a little bit about this in the Facebook Brigade group. When I improv, I tend to go dark. That's like my all my neurons must be like lined up in that direction or whatever. They're all connected. But so I have to I have to watch myself. Like, oh, okay, that's right. There's kids. I have like a 12-year-old player at the table. I don't want to break his little mind. So let's try to make sure it's not too disturbing when I role play the NPCs and things like that, and see how it goes. But kind of like an inhibitor or whatever on the gas pedal some vehicles have. You just you hit the floor and it doesn't make you go all the way to the floor. I need one of those.
Yeah. Well, I think we've all had that experience of maybe getting into our own groove as either players or game masters, and then not realizing until it's too late that perhaps the other one of the players or whatever is not necessarily on the same page as you are. So maybe scaring people off, or maybe just raising some eyebrows, but it happens. I think it's just one of those things that's bound to happen. Not everybody is even if you have some sort of social contract going into the beginning of the game, this is the kind of game that we're running. Not everybody necessarily knows what that means to them. So, or it's different for everybody. So it's oh, I'm going for a dark game, and then when it starts, it's oh, that was really dark. Okay, I see. All right. But yeah, it's tough. It's a very tough little minefield to navigate.
Yeah, because I don't think everyone is really into Asian horror and just all these weird independent flicks that I've watched. All kinds of disturbing things happen, so it's that's normal for me. That's entertainment, So when I sit down and try to show people entertainment, that's just this is entertaining to me. So I have to realize, I have to just, and I can do it. Like I said, when you see those little eyebrows go up, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, these people aren't into the same things I am, or at least to the degree that I am. So I got to cut things back a little bit, or. Okay, that horrible torture scene I was going to describe, yeah, let's cut that back a little bit and say it was torture.
Fade to black or something.
Well,
fade to black, yeah.
It's like Hitchcock said, you got to kill your little darlings. You got to, you have to, this is what I really want to do, and I'm so happy, excited about it, but, for different reasons, either for the integrity of the game or for audiences, so I can actually get this game out there, I'm going to have to edit it a little bit, and you're going to have to make some sacrifices. As much as I would love to describe that guy ripping the other guy's toenails off, I think I'm going to have to, let's just apply it.
Describe that.
Yes, the cleric wearing the disemboweled guts of one of the other, characters. Yeah, let's not really go that far, Tim. Oh, okay. Good call. And it's interesting too, because I'm playing a game and we're surrounded by board gamers. So sometimes we'll get the crowd whoa, they're playing I don't know, not really Monopoly, but more involved board games like Settlers of Catan or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, oh, what just happened over there? What dark gateway just got opened? So yeah. I gotta watch out for the audience that isn't my audience as well, like the surrounding ears and people. So it's interesting. I've played at gaming clubs before, but this one's more family centric than I'm used to. So I just gotta self censor a little bit, or like I said, just fade to black. So, might have to
Gosh, I completely blame Will Wheaton. He's making gaming way too mainstream now. Too many people, it's like families and kids. I can't operate under these conditions.
Well, I can. I just have to get used to it. I think it's just different set of parameters to follow, to listen to, to try to be better when I'm in a crowd, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
well, it's kind of
more
hard.
Standard cliche fantasy stuff.
It's kind of hard though, because you never know necessarily what someone's buttons are going to be. They because they might not even know.
Mm-hmm.
They might not even be aware something is disturbing to them until they actually encounter it.
Staring at it.
Yeah. And having had, just because of, I guess, the moment, when I came into gaming, there was Skype and Google Plus and all of this stuff. So my gaming has been pretty much exclusively in this format. So it's for for people who, when that occurs, let's say like a face-to-face setting at the table setting, people at least have the option of getting up and walking away. Where I mean, I guess you can do that in in this situation, but it makes it a lot more difficult. So people are really like you're kind of like strapped in when you're sort of gaming in this kind of environment. So that's definitely made it a little bit more difficult. Is that everybody's kind of no everybody's kind of chained to their computer at that point.
There's also that thing where, especially if you have like a live game where people are watching, there's that audience. I guess it's there too. Like I've talked to Hammered Shitsake Eunice a long time ago about how he didn't necessarily like that all the time. That there was that audience extra layer around everything. So not only were you just trying to have fun and be a good player or be a good GM, there's a little bit of pressure there, like you gotta live up to your expectations. And yeah, you talk all the time about RPGs. Let's see the proof in the pudding now that you're actually running in front of people. So there's that as well. So if you like walk away from an online session, you might get some flack, like, holy crap, Aaron just rage quit this game. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm taking my ball going home. Screw you guys.
Yeah. I'm really trying to imagine the game that's going to make me rage quit because of content, because I really am having a hard time thinking about that game, because I'm pretty much down for anything really. I mean, I'll play any game, but yeah, yeah, that is tough, and that's such a weird like thing that's just kind of sprung out of like this, just recently, is like how tabletop gaming has become a spectator sport sometimes, and and I think that inherently those two things are different, and depending on your group. Like I think that there are games that are very much aware of their audience when they're putting them out there on YouTube or whatever, and it's very audience. The game is very much for the audience just as much as it is for the players, and like Chris Perkins and Acquisitions Incorporated and all that, the stuff they do at PAX. Where there are other games that are where there are people who I guess have the confidence enough, or at least there are other games where it's just like, well, we're just going to play and put this out there for people, and if they watch, they watch, and it's we're sharing this because we want to share this experience, but we're not necessarily playing for the audience. I mean, because when I was first trying to get into gaming, or at least trying to like learn about tabletop RPGs, luckily I had YouTube when I was first trying to figure things out, and there were like, when I was first like looking things up, there were probably like two channels that I can think of that were putting out games, like recorded games at their tabletop sessions. And this was before Google Plus. So people were just like literally recording and putting it onto YouTube, and that was really helpful for me as somebody like. This was during the time of like fourth edition and Pathfinder, and so I was only kind of like seeing. At first, I didn't even know Pathfinder existed, so I just was like, fourth edition, like this is what Dungeons and Dragons is now, and that was really helpful for me, at least getting an idea of like what the hobby is, and that really helped me get along to like finally watching like vlogs and people talking about it, and so yeah, it's both I think that video game, like putting the games on tape basically is both can be helpful and a hindrance depending on where you look at it.
How about you, Alex? I mean, you've run a lot of games online, a lot of one-shots, a lot of campaigns. Like, I haven't actually listened to a lot of them because it's just time. And for me, like, I'll put stuff on in the background sometimes, but I'm sure you know this, Alex. There's just noise and chaos, and I can barely hear videos a lot of times.
Yeah.
But why don't you talk about that audience level around running a public game for anyone really to see now and in the future?
Well, generally speaking, with the live games, I really try not to think about it, because I don't want it to influence the game. I don't want to be playing for the audience. I want to be playing for our own enjoyment. The only reason I keep kind of doing it is because there are some people who say, "Oh, I love listening to it." It's like, okay, I'll keep doing it then. I'm not doing it, for any other reason than because, there are people out there who enjoy watching it, and maybe it inspires someone. I mean, I think I found the Brigade by through Acquisitions Incorporated probably. I found, as I was looking for something related to D&D, and then I found that, and then that, and then the suggestions, and then it took me to I forget who it was in the Brigade, but one of their videos, and then that just kind of led into it. So, like I said, if people enjoy it, then why not?
Yeah, I think with my games, there's like the few, the proud, and the brave that can listen to every like. I'll see them commenting on the various videos for an entire campaign like throughout the year. So it takes them a while to make it through it. But there are a few people that have gone through all the videos that I put up with gaming, and they'll suggest different things and remind me of different parts that happen in the campaign. Oh, that's right, I forgot that character stabbed that character in the back, or whatever the case is. I too try to think, like, not try to think about the audience really.
Yeah.
I'm sure it kind of creeps in there sometimes, like, oh, how's this decision I made going to be looked at? But really, a lot of people don't watch the videos. They're probably my least watched videos when I put up campaigns of things. But I also like that, like you said, Aaron, it's a recording, so you can go back and listen to it. You can take notes. You can cringe through bad decisions that you've made and learn from them. I think I've learned a lot just by listening to myself run games. Like, I'll hear like a character or a player ask me a question, but he's also asking a question like with three other people are all asking questions, and they're all throwing questions at me or whatever, and I'm trying to answer everyone, and I miss that guy. I'm like, oh, I missed that guy. I should have heard that or absorbed that. But I think when you're running games, sometimes there's so much going on that you miss things, and I think that's probably just human. I think everyone probably does that. So they can be good teaching tools, I guess, for yourself, if nothing else.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's that.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well,
have you ran any games, Aaron?
However, I have run Call of Cthulhu games on, well, back in the day on DFC on Andrew's channel, and that's how I kind of got started with playing on the on YouTube, and I played in a couple games there. I used, with our campaign that we were referring to earlier, started on YouTube. There were two campaigns actually going on simultaneously, which now have become one. But I have not. I have. It's very rare for me to run a game, mainly because there's just I think, especially within like because my gaming group, or like at least like the people I have to pick from, are basically the Brigade and online groups and stuff like that. There's a lot going on, and finding something to do, finding people who can take the time to play a game, can be difficult. People are pretty set in already, and have pretty busy schedules. That being said, I will be running Traveler hopefully soon. Depending, we have to figure out scheduling and stuff. And Alex will most likely be in that game, and Barker will be in that game, and somebody in our community, Michael Foster, I believe, he'll be in that game, and I might have a fourth. I don't know, but we'll see. So I'm looking forward to that. It's been a while since I've run something. The last thing I ran was Cthulhu, and that wasn't on YouTube. It was just via Google Hangouts, and that was fun. But I'm really what I really want to do is I'm really looking for the opportunity to finally run some 5th edition, some Dungeons and Dragons, because I have not really ever had the opportunity to run Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or anything like that. And I've been a player in a lot of games, but it's definitely something that I really want to do one of these days.
Yeah, you should be able to find lots of players for that. They seem to, like the most popular game like Pathfinder, D&D. There's always lots of players out there willing to
Yeah.
jump into a game of that. So
Yeah, I,
it,
yeah. I guess for me, it's like I know that there's because now there's a one shot group that a lot of people are a part of and setting up games with, and I might do something through there. I guess for me, I like one shots, and I think that they can be fun. Um, uh, I I just actually played in one on Fistful of Dice. Um, but they always kind of leave me wanting more, and they tend to. It's always more about like the actual like mission than it is necessarily like what I get out of role playing, which is like a lot of the character stuff. So a lot of times when I've been in a one shot playing in a one shot, I feel bad because a lot of times I've admitting my mistakes, I've kind of derailed it sometimes because I've focused more on like character interaction and like talking to people as opposed to like going to go kill the thing. So so I guess like I think probably it's best for me just to start with the one shots, just so I can get my feet wet with like running D&D. But I really hope to like one day have the opportunity to run a campaign or at least like a short series of games. Like I prefer like three shots as opposed to one shot. Like at least something that I can tell like a story with, and that's really what I hope to do soon.
you mentioned little ways back about two campaigns becoming one and people dropping and having to add new players, especially on with online games. I've found that that's tough. You really have to keep
Yeah.
at it. Like,
Hmm.
okay, we just lost this player. Okay, work just changed his schedule. Okay, he had a medical emergency just happened. So it's great to have the RPG Brigade, One Shot Group, all these various groups of
Yeah.
people out there that you know pretty well. You're like, oh, okay, I know this guy. He seems like he'd be a cool player. I can get
Yeah.
him in the game. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know with all the games, the campaigns especially that I've run,
Hmm.
you have to keep on top of things. Like,
Yeah.
I even had like a player pool ready. Like,
Yeah.
hey, just in case someone drops, would you want to drop in this campaign? Okay, cool. All right,
Yeah.
we'll talk. All right, and then like the next day, it's like, well, you remember how I said it might be a month from now? How about tomorrow?
Well, absolutely.
Do you want
And,
to play tomorrow?
and that's the thing and that's like one of the biggest, and maybe something I need to kind of get over myself is that like one of the things that kind of stops me from like running games, more games at least, is that um, there are people that I know in the brigade and online and these different groups and stuff like that that I've played with before, that I've talked with before, and then I have a good a pretty good relationship with, either just through like chatting on Facebook or interaction through YouTube and Google. And I'm always very wary of like having strangers or random people in my game, and just because like and normally and it's happened before and it's worked out fine, but I don't know. I'm always kind of afraid to go out of my comfort zone. So that's another thing that I kind of have to work on is especially if I'm like if I want to play games through this medium, there's a lot more chance of like getting people on board that I haven't really met before. So it's that's something I really want to work on too.
Well, if you run lots of one shots, that's a really good opportunity to see lots of different personalities, play styles, how some of those interact and clash and blow up sometimes. I think I was sort of I got thrown in the frying pan when I started running games at my local convention. Sometimes like four games in a day, and you really see a lot of different people come in there, which is I think it was a good experience, but there were some games that had some problems. We're like, oh wow, how am I going to handle Type A personality and Type C personalities, duking it out? Or so yeah, you're gonna have failures, you're gonna have mistakes, you're gonna make the wrong decisions sometimes, and trial and error. You just don't be afraid of it. It's gonna happen. I mean, Alex, I'm sure you've had lots of stumbles along the way that you've learned from, and that's just how it is. You're gonna mess up from time to time, and you just have to pick up your bootstraps, keep going down the trail, and just do the best you can the next time.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, Yeah, I haven't really had a lot of convention experience. Um, I've played it. I've played in a couple, but never ran for just cold strangers like that.
Well, how about the one? Have you ran a lot of one shots online? Maybe,
Oh yeah,
maybe.
yeah. I mean, but I don't know. You still sort of. I mean, yeah. I suppose there's some people there, but you're still getting them from. You're still harvesting them from the same soil as the other players you played with, the Brigade. So, they're, they're you're not likely to get someone who's like way off base because chances are that person got banned from the group a long time ago. Um, or you hear rumors about someone because let's face it, there's a grapevine. So if someone's like a really what's what I'm looking for? A really difficult player. The word gets around. So you're like, I don't know.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
I
not.
I can normally and I can normally gauge people, at least from what I've had interactions with or things that I've seen on the through different, opportunities to interact, whether it be comments or whatever. And like there are some people like I have a good feel for. But yeah, I think that's totally true. And I think like another thing is like I feel at least I feel pretty spoiled in the fact that when I was starting to like get into gaming, that I was really able to do it through the Brigade and through a lot of people who are really passionate and know a lot about the hobby, and a lot of people introduced me to things that I didn't know about before and taught me things I didn't necessarily know before. And so I had this great experience, at least in the start, of just like being able to play with some like really top-notch people. And so I guess from that experience, it's like I'm so wary of like of not having that experience. But I guess another way I can look at it is the opportunity to take what I've learned and then sharing it with others that's something that I could do as well.
Yeah, there's what's nice about having the various videos and things is that you can kind of glean what their personality's like, and we spout opinions all the time. So it's like when you watch a channel, you're like, yeah, I don't think I could play with this guy. He's got some interesting opinions, but I just don't think I'm going to invite him to my long-term campaign. And I've invited some people that are just commenters, and like you said, some people just comment so much all right, I got a good feeling for this guy. I'm gonna roll the dice and see what happens. And most of the time, I've been very lucky in that regard. I think I hope he doesn't mind me saying his name, but Tom Ray, like he was just a commenter. I've never seen a video, never talked to him, other than I invited him to one of my games, and he was a great player. So it's like, sweet, that's good.
Yeah.
But I've also had the opposite thing happen, where like I watched the channel, okay, this guy and me seemed like we were pretty well lined up, and then he got in one of my games, and like, wow, okay, I didn't think you would play this way. Oh, okay. And then a couple more sessions went by, like, okay. It's kind of getting like it's a problem situation. I'm not really sure how to handle this right now. And so I've had both situations happen, but I would say just try not to be afraid of it. I mean, those situations you get into, they're not fun. Like when that awkward, okay, I got to talk to this guy, maybe he needs to be removed from the group. Maybe he can change
honestly,
his ways,
if that's your biggest problem gaming, that's not too bad. When you just have to worry about, because you have almost too many people to choose from in a way. With I mean, where we literally have the world to choose from as far as players go. Yeah. I mean, both the campaigns I'm running literally stretch from one side of the planet to the other, and so. It's first of all, it's amazing getting people, to get schedules that work.
Yeah.
In the game with Aaron, we have people let's see. Well, we used to have someone in Iceland, but he had to back out for a while. I think he's going to be coming back in the spring, hopefully. So we're going to start up a new campaign. This one's kind of heading for endgame at this point. And we had someone in the UK and
Hungary.
Someone in Hungary. So and then the other game has someone in New Zealand. So That's literally on the other side of the planet. He plays with us from the future.
But and that's both, you know, and it has its challenges, but it's also just been amazing. Like the ability to like, and I you know, and I talk to my parents sometimes about like, the games that I'm playing, and you know they don't it's never been something that's in their purview. It's not their thing. But like when I tell them, like, oh yeah, I was just playing with this guy from like Sweden, and you know the other day, and it's like, oh okay, well that's cool. Like it's being able to be exposed and being able to play with people from like all over the world has been. I have most of the games that I've ever played or run in have had somebody from like another continent, and that's been really rewarding.
I think when I tell my wife that I played with a guy from Finland and the Netherlands and a guy from New Zealand, she's like, "Wow, really?" Or like I'll be listening to something on the news about something in Germany. I'm like, "Oh, you know, I wonder what this player thinks about that." She's like, "You know somebody in Germany?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know a couple people in Germany."
The Brigade
I don't even think about the time. Yeah, it's international, right? So that's kind of interesting to have happen, especially when
we're a global organization.
We're taking over. But especially when you get those cultural references that get thrown out, like, oh, wow, this is what you guys do over there? Oh, that's cool. You know, just with some of the before and in-game chatter.
And how like a lot of like the stuff that like D&D and like a lot of these fantasy games are based off of is just like their actual just history. Like a lot of these people's just history. So that's always a little fun, you know. And you know, and then there's that thing where the common trope of like gamers like using bad British accents all the time, and then you find yourself in a game with an actual person from the British Isles, and you're like, well, I'm sorry, I apologize in advance, but you know, I just have to.
Yeah, but it's not a British accent. It's a Thulian accent because that's where they come from. So
that's true. Exactly. That I do have to remember that. You know.
So of course it's going to be different. Come on.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to go on a field trip, and then they show you like standing stones and castles. You're like, holy crap, that would be awesome to just get on.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, I'm going to go hang out in a castle today. You know, that'd be great. You can't do that.
We play with Oral, who's in Hungary, and you know he was I guess he's going to be moving to the UK, and so we was say, oh, you know, because we were talking about how cool it'd be to go over to to Hungary and so forth, and he's like, it's pretty bad. It's like everyone thinks that about where they come from because it's kind of boring to them now because they grew up there, so it's like. Yeah, I suppose to someone outside it would be interesting. You know, it's kind of like up here. You know, we see moose pretty regularly. You know, so. Yeah. I remember one morning I was getting, this was a few years ago. I was getting ready to go to work, and I go out into the parking area, and there's a moose in our driveway. So it's like I have to wait now.
Yeah.
God damn it.
We don't have any moose. We just have lots of deer. Lots of deer in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was a moose in my driveway.
Right. Yeah, we have like geckos and like lots of lizards. That was new. Because I came from the Midwest myself, so when we first moved down here to Florida, there was I'm just seeing lizards just everywhere. It was strange, just cold-blooded creatures. Not to mention the gators, but yeah, that was fun. And of course, then when I spend half my time up in New York, so. And there's nothing up there except for pigeons, pigeons and rats. So
I kind of thought that too, like down in Florida, you go out to go to swim in your pool, and there's an alligator, and it's like,
well, and we're thinking swimming today.
And up here, someone's thinking like, oh, that's so cool. Down there, you're like, fuck, I can't swim today.
Yeah,
guys,
damn alligator.
Telling you that, oh yeah, I almost got killed today because this animal was in my house. It's like, really?
Yeah. Well,
this thing was under my pillow. Here, I'll take a picture.
One thing that's common in here, a lot of people get pets like reptilian pets that have no business being in North America. So like iguanas and Burmese python. And so every once in a while you'll hear a news story about like how a Burmese python ate like somebody's dog, and it's be like that's just like a regular news day, and and then there's always like now these like infestations of like iguana in people's backyards, and then one year we had like a cold snap where we just got like unseasonably cold in Florida, and the iguanas just started falling out of the trees because their body temperatures they couldn't handle it, so they were going like comatose or dying outright. So they were like iguanas just falling out of trees.
Yeah. This makes me just think about like traveling to new places in some fantasy world where there's all these different animals there. It just makes you think. It's going to be very different for those people. Like the animals they're used to are not going to be there. There are going to be all kinds of strange new things to explore and bump into, and you probably attack them at some point or other.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm curious. How do you guys? So, in like fantasy settings, we look at sort of bestiaries and monster manuals, and there's all these fantastic creatures. Is it important for you to make sure that that if they do come across a monster, that it is something that's unique or special, or how like ubiquitous might like one creature be in your fantasy world as opposed to just a regular everyday thing. Like if we were to see a dragon, that'd be mind shattering.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. This was way back when I was first playing D&D back in the 80s, and we went to the Museum of Science in Boston, and they have like an actual actual life-size replica of a T-Rex, which is arguably smaller than some of the dragons you might encounter. And I remember walking in there and I'm looking up at this thing and I'm thinking, we fight these with swords? Are we insane? We should be running for our lives.
So wait, out of those big sharp teeth, there's fire pouring at me? Yeah, no.
Yeah, right.
Nope.
Thinking,
and it can fly.
A dragon's actually about twice that size, with gigantic wings, intelligent, super intelligent, and it's breathing fire, and it wants to kill me.
Yeah. So, no wonder why it's the ultimate symbol of accomplishment and completing your quest is to slay a dragon, because God, that's not difficult.
Yeah, and getting that idea across to people can be tricky. To paint that picture where that you would really kind of feel if you were really confronted by such a creature, or undead, for example. I mean, the living dead would have to be one of the more horrifying things for most humans. And in game it's kind of like, zombies again,
Yeah, I guess we kind of get jaded with a lot of monsters. Like, oh, it's just animated flesh that's trying to eat me. Oh, this is so boring. It's like I played so many games now. It's like, oh, it's a vampire. Couldn't you come up with something more special? I mean, after you play for like 20, 30 years, or even 6 years, whatever, you just get used to these things, and I don't know. I guess there's
especially with undead, you almost have to kind of go into the kind of descriptions you were talking about avoiding, Tim, which is like you want to describe like kind of like some of the zombies in The Walking Dead, where they're just bits are falling off, they're sloughing off some of their outer flesh, the smell. You want to really get all this visceral kind of senses involved, the sound of them moving, shuffling, and this kind of squishing sound as their feet kind of press into the ground, and the rotted flesh kind of squishes out from underneath between their toes. You can really get across the feel for it. Apologize for anyone who's eating an early lunch.
Like Aaron. I know. Yeah. I think that maybe that's part of it too. Is that I think that I've gone through a lot of standard fantasy stuff, so whenever I try to run something, I try to make it more horrific or disturbing, or just go in a different direction. Where for someone who's only been playing for a year or two, they haven't been so jaded. They, you show them a kobold for the first time, like, oh, cool, this is something new, and you're like, it's just a kobold,
Well,
and
that's my feeling about Cthulhu too, because Cthulhu is kind of a win-win situation, because the new players are going to be scared out of their mind because they don't know what's coming, and then the experienced players are going to be scared out of their mind because they know what's coming, or because like they know like how screwed they are. So that's, to me, that's always been a kind of win-win situation. But it is hard to like really especially now with like like Cthulhu is everywhere, and like it's on people's, like it's on kids' like folders when they go to school. I don't know, but it's it's just such a like I've always said that like Cthulhu is a monster that was created by a PR firm. It had to have been. Like it was just, they sat around at a table and were like, it's got tentacles.
All right, buddy. Listen. I got a pitch for you. Don't stop me till you've heard it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's perfect. It's really great. But so that can be hard to like really instill that fear or that shock or even that wonder of seeing something crazy. So that's why. So normally when I run Cthulhu, I like to go into like the more the peripheral stuff or things that are less talked about, and really try to, or even like just come up with my own stuff, because it's to me that's more tends to get a better effect.
Well, even with Call of Cthulhu, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, we're going to go crazy and die again.
Right.
I'd rather play something else." So I guess even with Call of Cthulhu, people have gotten sort of jaded and like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm insane and I'm maybe radical, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
I'm crazy.
Yeah, that's why.
I'm running for my life.
Yeah, a lot of people say that Cthulhu is a game that's good in short bursts. You play it, in between your Dungeons and Dragons campaign, so that you've had the chance to kind of, get over your past experience with it. And I think that I see that as sort of like a challenge, because I hear that a lot about people being very jaded about Cthulhu, or at least knowing what to expect. And I think that for me, I never aim to, in a Cthulhu game, to kill or drive characters insane, like outright. Like for me, it's more important to like give the investigators enough rope to hang themselves with. For me, it's more, I'm more of a slow burn kind of guy when it comes to horror. Like I like things like building and mounting up to like an explosive climax, whereas so instead of like every corner they think that they're gonna like go insane. Like I like chipping away. I like chipping away at characters as opposed to like constant like.
In a way, it's kind of like torture. You don't want to just keep giving someone pain. What you want to do is give them pain for a while, and then give them something nice, and then back to pain. Yeah. And you make it unpredictable.
Right.
That will drive them crazy.
Well, and you have to like make.
I've heard.
Have to, like carry. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just. I imagine. At least that's what a friend told me. I don't know. But
I'm really not this sadistic in real life. Trust me.
No.
But
it just happens when I sit down at the GM chair. I don't know what's wrong with me.
But see, and that's the thing, is that with Cthulhu, like so many people go into character creation like not wanting to care about their characters. Like they're very like expendable. And to me, the challenge is to make them kind of as invested into their characters as they would be in like a Pathfinder or a Dungeons and Dragons game.
I think even if you're planning on a relatively long campaign for Cthulhu, you still kind of treat it almost like a one shot.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm only kind of thinking of it now. I think there's a fundamental, I don't want to say flaw, but there's a kind of inherent pattern that I think Call of Cthulhu has gotten stuck in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that same type of investigative, the apocalypse is coming and we need to stop it kind of thing, or that sort of. It just feels it has the same. Each one seems to have a similar flavor to it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to.
Right.
And I think part of it is getting the first of all, getting the players invested in the characters and really selling it up front that you don't need to die, you don't need to go insane.
Yeah.
It might not happen, and because once they really get it and they're invested in the characters, like, oh, okay, I want to live now, so I'm gonna,
Yeah.
you know, and because that alone makes stuff scary. Once you want your character to live, then you know, when there's a chance they might not, you know, you become kind of scared for them. It's like, oh
Right.
crap, no, I need to do something to avoid
Yeah.
this now.
And I think that's important to like. I prefer, in any game, I prefer sessions devoted to character creation. So, and I think that, and I think that in Cthulhu that would really help because I think it helps to like start creating connections and make people like really think about their characters ahead of time and start these storylines, and and then the beginning of the game, really make like, and I guess this is kind of true for any game, but really make it so that the characters have sort of successes early on, and at least it's easy for them to achieve success early on, so that they can start having achievements they can hold on to, and things that they can remember, and then like let slowly them kind of let that confidence build, and then that's when things go south. And I think that and I completely agree that the types of games that you can run with Cthulhu, we've been so limited in terms of, like you said, it's always like trying to stop the big tentacly beast, coming out of the portal. I think it needs to be more than that. I think that there's so many like good opportunities for like surreal things, and I'd love to see something that's more along the lines of like In the Mouth of Madness,
Yeah.
go down, where like that has something to do with like the end of the world, but there's so much more like psychological stuff going on in that, and that's, to me, that's kind of what I aim to run.
I ran a vaguely Cthulhu-esque game a while back. It was they were basically sort of not quite paranormal investigators, because it wasn't. They knew the paranormal existed,
Right.
and so this wealthy individual set up a foundation to basically, find these horrors, confront them, and stop them, basically. And they weren't all big horrors either. It wasn't always world-ending sort of thing. And it was pretty good. I call the campaign Terminus, and it was this was long before Walking Dead used the name, and and I borrowed from a really cool role-playing game that I found on Drive-Thru RPG called Wonderland, where they kind of explain the supernatural as sort of a shift in perception. And once you became sort of infected with Wonderland, the awareness of the supernatural, then you could see things others couldn't. So you would kind of have these episodes where you kind of drift into this other world, and you would still be seen by other people, but now you'd be seeing other things as well. So it was a really neat way to have the dark supernatural coexist with our world, and it would explain why people weren't aware of it. Anyway, it was close to what I wanted to get with Cthulhu, but not, there were some things that I would change now and update and that sort of thing. But
That sounds a little bit like the second sight from Hunt for the Reckoning, where most people can't see things, but your character is a little baddie, and you can kind of see like that person that's actually a zombie, but they have like this sort of mask of humanity over them that everyone else sees. You're talking about personal connections between characters, and I really like role-playing characters that are in horrible situations. Like, I like to try to think, okay, I know what this character is like. They're in this situation. How are they going to react to that? What's their response going to be? What are they going to say? And sometimes it's just natural, just flows. And other times when it's not my turn, I'm thinking, like, what on earth am I going to say? What other than just stand there and not move with my eyes, deer in a headlight sort of stance. So I really enjoy that, and I think when there's good personal connections between character and character, you're also a little fearful for that other character. Like, you have like a brother or a friend from your childhood that's also in the group. There's a little bit of that. Oh, don't do that. Oh, you're gonna die. That sort of like when you're watching a movie and you're like, oh, don't go behind that door. That sort of feeling. So I love when games sort of, like you said, have a character creation session. You figure out how you're all connected, and I think that just adds to the enjoyment for me whenever I think about, my character's friend that has been involved his entire life is now bleeding on the floor. What's my character going to do in response to that? So, yeah, I
Well,
definitely enjoy all that stuff.
that's one thing I would like to figure out a way to bring more into other games, which is from the Fate system, and where they have this kind of cooperative character creation where each aspect of your character is tied into the other characters. So by the time you start the game, you've not only created these backstories, but you've intertwined them with the other characters, which from a GM standpoint especially, it just saves so much so much time and hassle. And I kind of like that, and so I mean, figuring out a system to do that, to do that easily would be kind of cool.
Well, luckily that, I mean, it might not necessarily like with aspects, things that you can like exploit in Fate, but it just in the simple practice of like they do in Fate of like, okay, who's the player on your left or your right or whatever, and then they're gonna write how something they did with you, and then that person's gonna and the kind of like passing that story along is something that's easily implemented. It's obviously there's no space for it on the character sheet necessarily, but it's something that you can that's definitely easy to implement, and it's more of a storytelling kind of more abstract thing, but I think it definitely has its place, even if even if people like wanted to use those aspects or that connection, like basically call upon that when they're role playing or when they're trying to make a test. It's some sort of check. That'd be really good.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that picture.
Yeah, this is from the Wonderland book. It shows the top one is normal life, and then you can go through different levels of awareness, and like this would be the second one where things just a little bit off, and then as you go deeper, things are just kind of stranger and stranger that you see, and
That's awesome.
From the other person's perspective, like by the time you get down to like the bottom one here, you're raving about these things you're seeing, and they're looking around like, what the hell is this guy raving about? They see you, because there's this divide between you now. But anyway, it's a great little illustration of how different it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely recommend Wonderland. I don't necessarily like the system, but I love the mythology. So I think it's easily adaptable to almost any.
Oh, I love that.
Game.
I love taking stuff from games that you don't necessarily like everything from it. Like there are games that I have that I wouldn't necessarily run, but I love just salvaging things like a scavenger. Yeah.
You can say steal. It's okay.
Yeah, it's steal and just be a scavenger and just kind of like take bits and pieces from it and just kind of put it into my games.
You guys were talking about trying to do something together, like mechanically, maybe between you and another character, with Fate aspects. I've done that with D&D a few times with feats and spells, where there's maybe a spell is cast on two individuals and they do X and Y happens, but both of them have to be involved or they have to be next to each other. I did like a backstab sort of feat like that where the two characters had the same feat, and no matter where they were around a character, or NPC or monster, they were literally like backstabbing. It's probably broken as all hell, but
that's awesome.
I did find though that those characters, man, they stuck together. Like, I'm not leaving my sights. No, you're not in the back. You're right beside me. So it definitely brought some collaboration, cohesion between those two characters, and I did enjoy seeing that.
That's great. That's definitely something that I think would definitely work. Is if when instead of like in Fate, you kind of, what is it, aspects they're called, or they're So you take the instead of like making it an aspect, you make it I don't know, like either a feat or an ability, and
Yeah.
it could be as subtle as it depends on like what it could be like. They're really good at like like maybe they're both con artists and they're really good at like playing the con on somebody or something like that. That thing's really good.
Well, honestly, I've been trying to think of a way to bring the fate aspects into D&D because they already have something very similar with the personality traits.
That's
You've
true.
got your personality trait, you've got your ideal, you've got your bond, and you've got your flaw.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very, very similar to fate.
Yeah.
And what I would do is bring in more fate-like aspects. So those four would essentially still be there. They would be created more by the characters, and then by the players rather. And then for mechanics, what I would do is maybe something like when you invoke one, like you would in Fate, you can gain an advantage. So you basically get an advantage just like any D&D advantage.
Yeah.
But if the GM compels them, you get a disadvantage, but you get an inspiration point.
That's cool.
So it keeps it really simple. It doesn't quite go as far as Fate does necessarily, but it definitely makes them more useful, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I shouldn't say that. They are very useful, I think, for role playing the character. It helps to kind of remind players, about their characters' personalities. But I think they're sometimes ignored or forgotten about, and I think this would help to keep them in the forefront and help kind of develop the character more and give them a little more reason to play some of the more of the character flaws, because that's really kind of what you want. You want you don't want them to be awesome all the time. You want them to fail. You want them to do something stupid because that's very interesting.
Yeah.
I played in a Dungeon World campaign for a while, and that system does some interesting things. Like if you fail, you get an experience point, or if you resolve some sort of conflict or a bond that you have with another character, or if you move on, you can form a new bond. So I think D&D took some really probably just looked around and like, oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to incorporate that into D&D. So that's cool. And I've always been a big cheerleader for, like I said, stealing a mechanic from one system and hacking it in. As long as your players know up front, like that chat at the end of the game, like, oh, I'm going to use Pendragon personalities, and I'm going to use the shield rule from Dragon Warriors, and I'm going to use this overland travel from Dungeon World. And is that okay? Yeah, okay, let's go. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I like to hack as little as possible, generally speaking. So I mean, the Fate adaptation would be relatively. It would pretty much be using, just kind of enhancing the existing mechanics, I guess. It wouldn't necessarily be adding anything
right.
new. It would just be sort of enhancing them a bit more. And the only thing I might do is the only other thing I was thinking, because you're only allowed to have one inspiration point at a time. I might increase that to like 2 or 3 or something like that, but definitely not more than that.
Like House of the Blood has like style points that you can pass back and forth from player to player, and I guess if you limit that, it would kind of restrict that flow, the currency that's being bounced back and forth a little bit. So that would probably keep it in control a little bit.
Right. Well, yeah. In Fate, it is the currency of the game. It isn't necessarily in D&D, so that's why I'd want to limit it more. I think that's why you're only allowed to have, you either have inspiration or you don't. It's a toggle switch. So I think having maybe a little bit more. I don't know. I have to think about it.
Yeah.
And maybe having one is fine, because it again, once you use it, then you're compelled to get another one as soon as possible. So you're gonna be looking at those flaws, saying, I'd probably do something stupid here.
Yeah. I think that if I were to run Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and it might be a bit broken, but I think that I would let inspiration points stack, with the understanding that the way that I would award it, inspiration is definitely going to be, I really want to see some really good role playing and the only way that you're really going to be able to give it to other players is if there's like really good role playing of giving that inspiration. So, because I've heard like a lot of people complain about the idea like, oh, I can, that somebody can just give their inspiration to another character so they can try to succeed at a really important role. Well, I said, and I told them, well, you look at the opportunity in that. Look at the opportunity of role playing in that. I mean, as a DM,
Yeah.
you can say like, well, how do you inspire them to do this thing? And
Right.
and I think that's very important too.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. If you're just saying, "Oh, I give them a point and that's it," come on, put some work into it. Well, how do you do it? What do you, how are you inspiring them? Make it a scene. Don't just make it a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And it also sort of rewards teamwork and trying to help each other out, which most D&D games are. It's about the group. It's not necessarily about all the individuals going to the four corners of the world. They're trying to work together and help each other out, and so I think it's a good mechanic. I mean, I've played games with hero points and things that other people have passed around. I've played a game called Mountain Witch where you pass sort of points back and forth to help each other out or curse each other or hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be kind of interesting too if you were playing like a more cutthroat type of game where you could use inspiration to hurt your fellow party members.
Yeah.
Well, I think they call it inspiration, and they'd probably call it something like malice or something.
Malice?
I have 12 malice points.
I want to play an RPG called Malice. That sounds like a great Malice the RPG or Spite. The Spite system instead of the Fate system, it's the Spite system.
Actually, I think there is a Spite system. I think it uses D12s.
That's awesome.
I think
I'm
I'm not entirely sure, but I think Raphael Chandler, he's known for making some graphic, horrific games. I'm pretty sure he has a D12, maybe D12 dice pool system called Spite, or
nice.
I don't think it's Malice, but I'm pretty sure the Spite exists. So look for that.
That's awesome.
And if you guys like horrific stuff, Raphael Chandler has a lot of pay what you want sort of things up on. Drive through or whatever. I think that's his name, or he might have a company name that he's associated with, but I see his stuff on.
I'm still trying to figure out a way to get Dread to work on Hangouts. Because with the Jenga tower, I really, if I could just find a really good virtual Jenga simulator, that's happening. I'm telling you.
Well, couldn't each person have their own Jenga tower? Like it might not fall as often.
That's true. I thought about that too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, you do.
Pull more blocks, and so if it's like a really hard task, instead of
no.
blocks,
What you do is you still have the Jenga tower. Each person has their own Jenga tower, but you have to put a big full glass of water on top.
Yeah, and just ruin their computers. Yeah, that really gets the part pumping. I have to say,
they're going to be motivated.
Yeah, whenever their computer dies and explodes, their character dies.
Yeah, that's a no holds barred.
That's immersion.
Yeah, that's a no holds barred kind of
hardcore Dread, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No holds barred sounds kind of like a D&D strip joint, but
it's no holds barred. Don't touch the bards. Oh gosh. There's something that I want to borrow from Fate that I'm kind of working on my own setting / game using BRP rules, and there's also, and my major resource for that is there's a game. Well, it's more of a resource book, but it can also be a game. It's called Renaissance, which is by Cake Bread and Walton, who do like Clockwork and Chivalry, and I'm going to use, because they have a really good system in there called it's like Zeal or something like that, where you're basically like, there's a lot of like testing each other's beliefs in that, which I really like. But there's something I want to borrow from Fate, because it's kind of like this alt history fantasy Renaissance kind of thing. I want to do this. I want a core aspect of the game to be people sitting down and creating the city where they're going to be operating from, because that's going to be like the main that's going to be the main sort of background of most games will be you'll have sort of your hub city, and you might travel to other cities within like this sort of Renaissance Europe. So the idea would be like you would use an existing sort of medieval European city as sort of a foundation, mainly for just like where is it placed geographically, what is kind of the idea of the language, and maybe some maybe some like common features. But then like each player, like you then players determine like what are the city's ideals, what are some key locations within the city, what are some problems that the city face, what are some things that the city does well. And I think that I think that would be that's something that because I remember I never fully went through a game of Fate, but I did start in a character creation for like a modern sort of supers game where we kind of created the town that we were all sort of like the Smallville that we were starting in. And that was like such a satisfying like experiment and practice to do, and I really wanted to incorporate that into this game, especially since it's also kind of like an alt history kind of thing. So giving players the chance to like what's like the weird thing that they're going to do with this European city or whatever. Like what's going to be different about Florence
so would you make the city kind of a character or?
Yeah, I think that there are things there. I would definitely. I would make the city. The city is definitely going to be in the control of the GM. You know, it's definitely something like the city's going to like the GM's going to have the ability to look at things about the city, and as the characters are interacting within the city, like if let's say that it's a city that has a lot of gang violence or you know something like that, or a lot of city thugs, and like the characters are trying to have an intrigue in the middle of like a market square or something like that. The GM would say, well, you know, can say, you know, a fight breaks out, or there's like a big like gang skirmish in the middle of the marketplace, and you know, so it adds sort of difficulties and environmental things that can happen within the course of the game.
Right.
I also wanted to do that because another thing that I really enjoy character creation wise, or at least a system that I enjoyed, was the Song of Ice and Fire role playing game where you get to create the house.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun, and I want to kind of give people the chance to emulate that, and maybe even like roll like historical events of the city and things like that.
I've thought about the idea too of using things like fate points or inspiration or you know whatever system you have calls it or whatever as a way to sort of influence the world around you, not in game, but as sort of a metagame thing. So let's say again, let's use your example. You're in this rough part of city where you know where it's controlled by gangs. Now maybe your character needs a distraction because they want to try and get away with something.
Yeah.
So they spend their inspiration fate point D thing and say and they don't have to say anything, they just kind of show it to you and say all right, a gang fight breaks out on the other side of the square with gunshots, and then you know just kind of hands it off to the GM at that point to run with it. So you know again they're limited in what they can do.
Yeah,
it obviously has to fit in with the personality of the city. But it gives the players a little bit more agency to kind of help create the world around them too. And I like that.
It kind of reminds me of a game called Nobilis. It's a diceless game. And part of the character creation is making this chancel, which is like this pocket dimension that you get to describe and build as characters. Now, you know, I'm a world builder, so I really like that. Some of the other players are like, oh, I don't know, I'll throw this in there. So you're probably going to find that there's going to be some players that really like to world build, some that are just like, okay, let's hurry up and get to the rest of the character creation. Like, I would suggest to have some sort of outline or way of building. Like you have points, and here's your options. Here's this. Maybe not get too complicated with it, but like the RPGS setting that I built with Null Inquisitor, he had in place a way to world build. You have different steps, and if people have that, they can kind of work down through it and. Just some sort of structure seems to help people when they're world building. Like,
you
just throw it out there, like
guidelines.
yeah, guidelines or just points to hit or just something like that. Because some people sort of cling to that. Where if you just throw, hey, let's world build, let's make something
Yeah.
together. Be like, I don't know what to make, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think since it's BRP, and a lot of BRP games have luck points. What I'll probably do is do that, like those kind of things can be activated with luck points. And most characters get, like, at the start of a game, get anywhere from like 1 to 3, I think, 1 to maybe 1. Yeah. So, and there'd be ways to like regain luck, and I think that would probably be one of the things you can do with your luck points is say, I want to activate this aspect of the city, basically, or and then within the actual character creation, I definitely want to do steps and certain mechanics so that people have the option of doing more, because like with Song of Ice and Fire, you have the option of just like rolling on a table. So I would probably do something like that, or definitely like some sort of point buy-in for different aspects. So you get and a lot of that would determine like what's the size of the city, how old is the city. So and that kind of determines like how many points you start with and how much points you can invest into the city that you're creating. Because obviously, a larger city with more history, I mean, with that's been around longer, has a lot more character. Whereas a newer city that is kind of small is going to be has limited amounts of character, has limited amounts of like things going on in it.
I'm sure you could probably find a lot of random charts to roll on for historical events that happened. Yeah, I know a lot of world building books that I have a lot of like here's ways to randomly generate things that could happen in the setting.
Yeah.
So you might be able to use a lot of charts for that, just to help you guys out if you get stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I definitely want to. I definitely think that I'll definitely do that. Will probably be. You get to spend so many points on different things, or you can just spend the points. If not everybody can agree on something, or if somebody doesn't want to make that decision on their own, you can just spend the point to roll the dice and see what's on the table. And it'll probably be because it is BRP. It'll probably be a D100 table or something like that. maybe not 100 options, but maybe 50 or something like that.
You might be able to do something too where they can get those luck points back if they help you make things in the future. Like during the course of the campaign, like, hey, Aaron, I made this this hostel here. Here's the NPCs. Here's what they're all about.
Yeah.
Here's their goals. And okay, here you go. Here's the luck point back.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
There's some motivation with the system.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be. I definitely think it'd be something where where the giving of the luck points is very much obviously in the hands of the GM, and kind of doing it like where like 5th edition does, where they really give that. That's like one of the big things that the GM can do is determine like either it could be like the player's handbook says anything from like a funny joke or an amazing role playing scene is giving somebody giving somebody luck points back, and because I think that's the way I would word it is definitely like put that in the power of them, and like really not limit people too much on like what they can do, and it really trusting GMs and groups to kind of figure do what they want, because I the kind of game that I'm thinking of, I don't think it's necessarily going to attract power gamers and that like unless they like the idea of playing courtesans in Renaissance Europe. I don't know, but that's that's completely up to them.
Are you thinking about using any sort of like intrigue or anything like from Song of Ice and Fire, or are you going to just have that be like role play it out?
I think we're role playing it. I think I'm going to definitely be using some of. Because I'm going to do some of those skill aspects of the skills in BRP. Definitely more the skills that'll be in, I think it's going to be a lot more simplified. It's going to be more along the lines of like RuneQuest, where the skill set is smaller, like the standard skills are smaller, and then through character creation you determine like professional skills or in combat skills and even some magic skills. So where people can, so if somebody like really wants to be good at intrigue, they can say like there are like persuasion and other social skills on the standard skill list, but let's say in character creation, like I'm really good at I don't know let's go with incriminating, or I don't know, something like that, or con artistry or something like that, and I would, you could definitely make that skill for yourself, so that's sort of your specialization. And I like that, and that's the reason why I wanted to use the belief system. I'm completely forgetting what it's called, but in Renaissance, because they have this whole system where you're trying to basically wear down somebody's zeal or resolve, and through like contested die rolls, and it kind of like it spurns like debate and whatever. And as GM, you can like add to people's rolls or subtract from people's rolls depending on how well they did in their role playing. And I think I definitely would use that sort of that mechanic.
You might be able to use the resistance table too, with comparing skill to skill, and then giving yourself like one number to roll under.
Yeah, the general, I think the general way it's going to be, is going to be you roll. There are some charts like especially for this Renaissance game, and I think it's also in RuneQuest 6. I'm not sure, but where if you're opposing another player, or another character, you see like first you see, okay, what is the level of your success? So if you succeed in critically, then you obviously do better than somebody who just succeeded. But if you both succeed, then then it's whoever rolled who did the better roll. And but it's you have to role play it in a way where it's kind of you only have a slight advantage, and so on and so forth. There's a chart in there too about how to do that kind of resistance. So because like there's the possibility of depending on how well you do in that exchange, you can gain a significant amount of resolve, while the other character loses a significant amount of resolve, until you're trying to kind of get each other down to zero.
Did you mention if you're going to include something like some kind of social status points or anything like that, or?
I think that I definitely have. There is, I believe, an influence skill that people can invest into. I might absolutely have a separate stat of like, this is somebody's influence, or this is somebody's
like social rank.
Yeah, social rank.
I was saying it'd be kind of cool to use kind of a similar thing to the sanity, where it's a certain number, and you can lose numbers in social rank that reduce your influence. So if you're trying to influence someone using your social rank, you'd roll and use your social rank skill. But again, that can go up and down depending on what you do. If you do a big favor for someone really important, you gain. You gain that. If you embarrass yourself in front of someone powerful, you lose that. So but it's going to have an impact on other people you talk to as well, because they know that he's not in good with the aristocracy right now. I better not do him a favor.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it's definitely, because it definitely is a game more about intrigue. So definitely having including more of those mechanics is definitely a good idea.
Yeah, maybe if the certain character makes contacts with various power brokers, various groups and guilds, or
Mhm.
whatever's in the city, and maybe that helps them. Like, oh, you're associated with these people, so you get a few points here. You made enemies with these people. Oh, I don't know. That'd be kind of hard though, because like with different people, you're probably gonna have lots of different opinions on that character. So I don't know how you would resolve that. Like he might be infamous, but maybe not necessarily well liked in all the corners of the city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, with things like that, especially, it's definitely going to be a lot of subjectivity on the part of the GM and the players. So,
Mhm.
and I think in that kind of game, you just have to accept that.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
the GM says that this happens, like, well, okay.
Yeah, that's definitely the kind of game. That's definitely the kind of game that I go for. And though it is like it can be, might have room for debate. Hopefully, you have a group that trusts their GM and really is down to role play like that. And that's really the kind of game that I'm looking to put out there, is one that rewards that role playing and rewards that. Sort of the people, sort of the cooperation to tell a story amongst the group, and I think that, and also just having fun, where it's less about like being the most mechanically or the most statistically best, or as opposed to being able to have the most fun and tell the best story. And I think BRP has a good platform for doing that, just because of like the kind of games that they put out there, Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that, where that you can, there's so much that your character can do without being like optimal,
Right.
And my daughter's getting a little bit louder. I've been trying to ride the mute button here for you guys.
It's okay.
That's all right.
It's quite all right.
Hey Alex, why don't you plug some of your recent RPG products? What the hell?
Well, actually, we just got Michael Barker, Matt Click, and I just got done recording our first podcast last night. So that's going to be released on Friday the 13th. The subject is omens and red planets, and so it's we talk a lot about things like using omens and prophecy and prophetic dreams and things like that in role playing games and so forth. So it was our first podcast. I think it came out pretty good.
That's what called roll up and die. Is that right?
Roll up and die. Yep. It's hope we're crossing our fingers that we can sacrifice the right animals to get it on iTunes and get that rolling. But no, it's. It looks like it's probably going to be a close to an hour, and we're perhaps foolishly optimistic, but we're going to try to do it every week.
You fools!
I know. Well, it seemed easy enough.
Yeah.
Well, we won't know how easy it actually was until Friday, and because Barker's doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as editing and uploading it goes. He says it's not a problem, so we'll see how he feels after the process is done.
Well,
then it's just doing kind of a hangout like this, maybe a little more structure to it, but so I think that's going well.
Mm-hmm.
As far as other stuff I'm doing goes, I just released Weapons and Magic on Drive-Thru RPG, which has some really unique magic items that are basically compatible with 5th edition D&D, and the thing that's unique about them is they all have their own history and backstory as a major part of it. The mechanics are a bit at the end, and some are more powerful than others, and some are not powerful at all. But it's creating these interesting stories and histories for them that make them unique. So rather than just someone picking up a +1 sword, it's like I guess I'll trade this in when I get a +2.
Yeah, I love when weapons have names and histories, and especially when it's part of the campaign,
Exactly, that's kind of the point. If you told someone that you found a +1 sword and a short sword, and Yeah, it glows when there's an orc around, but that's about it. Like, oh well, okay. But if it's Sting, wow, that's a big deal now. Because this is Sting, man. This has a history to it.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be more likely to hang on to it and use it. So yeah, so there's that, and I'm collaborating with Rob Davis helped me with that and with the description and stuff. He was a big part of that, and we're currently working on our first D&D adventure.
Nice.
Publishing anyway, called Strange Fruit. It was a kind of a one shot that Rob ran for us when we first started to. That was actually the first one we did with 5th edition, and so we're putting that together for Drive Through RPG, and I got a hold of what's his name, Andrew Bampton to do the artwork for the inside. I did the cover and maps, and he's doing the other part. Trying to kind of expand now and get some other people involved in it. So he did the artwork for it, and as soon as we get it done, get finished the write up on the inside, it should be fairly quickly. So we'll see how that goes.
That's awesome.
People like it.
Yeah, that's very cool. I've been trying to work on an adventure for a while now. It's written, and like Andrew Martinez is editing it, and I did all the art, but another person's going to be colorizing it, and it's sort of in limbo right now. So I don't know when it'll get out there, but I'm sure I'll let everybody know.
I tell you, publishing stuff can be really tricky. I got a hand to Andrew Benton though. He's a fast artist, man. He's good.
Yeah, I'm very slow. So.
I can be fast off and on, but when you're trying to assemble the piece, I also wanted to get some new art. I don't want to just keep using mine. But it saves me a little bit of time. I can focus on the layout, doing the cover, which I love doing covers. So I did the cover, doing the maps, doing the layout, putting everything in, and he did some really great illustrations for the inside, and yeah. So this one is like I said, it's a Rob Davis adventure, first one we're publishing, so I'm really excited about that. We'll see how it sells, and yeah.
I was surprised I was surprised how much hard work it is to put something together that's really only going to be used for like a one session.
No.
Okay, like when you write your own adventures, you understand everything, but to write something that someone off the street will read and understand, that's tough.
Yeah, honestly, that is really the hard part. It's like, because Rob gave me his notes, and it's like a page for the adventure. It's like, you know what you're thinking in your head, but we need to we're gonna have to really flush this out, because we need to get descriptions, things that we wouldn't need if we were writing our own adventure. Like you said, we know it. It's in our subconscious. We just write ourselves notes to remind ourselves. But you want descriptions the GM can use for his players. You want detailed descriptions of things going on, a little bit of history behind it. Just all the stuff that a GM can pick up and run with, especially if they want to incorporate it into their world. If they want to, they have this town now they can place somewhere. So you want a little history behind it. You want something about the people in it, even stuff that may or may never be used by the people in the game. So yeah, there's definitely a lot more involved than that. So
how do you go about making a because obviously that game is meant for 5th edition. So were there things that you had to do so that you can market it as a 5th edition game, or?
Well, I'm not really marketing this 5th edition game per se. It's
right.
It's really compatible with almost any D20.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it's definitely not like official 5th edition kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of you can't mention specifically copyrighted things for 5th edition, basically, that sort of thing. So it's there's actually a few on Drive Through RPG now, but there's not a lot. So there's definitely I think it's definitely a market for it. People wanting to play them. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, guys, I think I might have to cut this short. She's a little grumpy.
That's fine.
Got to do the walking thing here to calm her down, just to talk to you guys. So, but thank you very much for coming and hanging out with me for a while.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good conversation.
Yeah.
Do you have any final words there, Aaron? before I kill you? No, just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, this is good. I wasn't expecting this. Well, no, just if people are already part of the YouTube RPG Brigade, and you're not a member of the RPG Brigade After Dark, go ahead and take a look at that, where you can talk about all kinds of strange and nasty. Yeah, all the things. All the things that you're ashamed of. So, but
shame.
we won't judge you. For example, if you want to happen to talk about a game that's set in the alternative Renaissance where you play courtesans and hookers, then have fun.
We're the place for you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my last words.
And I would just say, watch for our podcast. We'll post it on all appropriate media, and then you can listen and let us know what you think and make suggestions.
Alex, why don't you just send me a link to some of your products and things, and I'll try to put down in the description when I
cool.
get this video on YouTube. So,
thanks.
Thanks, guys, and I'll hopefully talk to you in the next year or so. Whenever I get around to chat with you guys again, that'd be great.
You won't remember.
Well, when your kids are off to college,
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.